Wendell approached me a few weeks ago to possibly do an RGB build. Now, as you guys know, builds are a little frustrating for me, and I'm still kind of a new baby learning how to do everything. And I also know that you guys kind of have like a low opinion of RGB stuff, and I can't say I totally blame you. A lot of the RGB stuff I see is very gaudy, it's very over the top, it's all air horns and dubstep. And I kind of had to ask myself, is there a way we can do this so it looks a little more grown up and less I'm 12, what is this? Now, getting started on this, it was much more difficult than I had originally anticipated. I looked up lots and lots of exemplars, and by that I mean I just Googled lots of images of RGB computers, and so many of them were the really bright thing that we're trying to avoid, or they had like crazy stuff like custom water cooling loops, and I was like, we do not have the budget for that. I don't know if you guys saw Jay's 2 cents, he did a build for Terry Crews, and that was an incredible build. But it's probably a little outside of the scope of baby's first RGB. So when we started our RGB build, we were lucky enough to have Bitfenix send us a case so they could indulge my mad and probably a little misguided whims. This is the Bitfenix Shogun case. It's a really nice metal case with this beautiful tempered glass side. Bitfenix also sent us some really nice white LED fans, and they also sent us some RGB strips to hook up into our motherboard. Now the tray here as well, that's actually part of the case, and it also has the RGB controller. You can hook it right into your motherboard, and it's for SSD. We don't have an SSD here, so it's really just for looks. Okay. Now inside of the case, we've put an AMD Ryzen 1800X, which is our CPU, running at 4.1 gigahertz. We also have 16 gigs of RAM. That's our G.Skill Trident Z. We have RGB and non-RGB options for that. We also have an OCZ RD400 NVMe, and of course our GeForce GTX 1080 Ti, which is the beautiful graphics card we have in the system. And for our CPU cooling, we're using the Noctua D15, and this thing is massive, works really well, was a little hard to maneuver around, but we did get through it just fine in the end. And then for our power supply, we've got the Cooler Master G750M. And all of these components are supported by our ASRock Taichi motherboard X370. Some of the first things we did was we took the RGB strips that we got and just put them around the window, because that's what everyone does. And it was okay, it looked fine, but it was a little bit dull, and so we kind of had to revisit the drawing board. Another option I saw that I really liked on pretty much every other PC except the one we got was putting the strips behind the motherboard, because that added a really nice glow. Well, we tried it, wasn't really great in practice. You couldn't really see the light very well. What we ended up doing was putting our strips, some of them are around the window, but we also have some down in front of the case. And I think that adds a really nice, subtle effect that when the machine is actually turned around, you can still get a little bit of the RGB factor in there. The result of that is that while this doesn't, light up real well, it doesn't show up real well on camera right now, for example, in a darkened room, it almost has like a fish tank sort of quality. It's a nice subtle glow, it's very calming, it's very muted, and that's, I think, kind of what we were going for in the end. Now, we did run into a few problems with the build, because that is just the way building PCs is. One of the issues we ran into was when we wanted to install our fans. We had already put together a lot of the PC previously, and then we tried to install the fans last. That was kind of maybe a mistake. We ended up having to take out the graphics card and try to work around everything. We did get them installed eventually, but the screws were also very, very hard to get in. We also put some fans in at the top, which wasn't terrible, but the top of the case can be a little bit difficult to get off. That was actually a 2-man job to get the case all taken apart to put the fans in. One of the things I was really pleasantly surprised by was how easy it was to do the strips. You literally just hook it into the motherboard and they're magnetic. I thought we were gonna have to like sticky them around the side of the case and it was gonna be like a big pain in the ass, but it's magnetic. You literally can just drag and drop them wherever you want. So that was a really pleasant surprise in a world of often, screwing things in and out constantly. We also have a single LED, and it's just like a teeny little spotlight, and we have it placed over our Ryzen logo on our motherboard because we want to highlight that cool Ryzen swag. Now, of course, we didn't do this the traditional way. We actually mounted it with ticky-tack, like what you put up your posters and glow-in-the-dark stars with. So, it still has a little bit of that, like, I'm still 12, but not in an obvious way. It's like a hidden way. So this is the final build. We're pretty happy with it. It looks really good. We have a big thanks to Bitfenix for sending us the case and all the RGB components. If you guys like this video, let us know. If you don't like it, also let us know. I'll see you guys in the forums. This is Krista. Bye!